Hey guys, welcome to session number 14 of the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. I like it a lot. One man with one microphone, whose favorite flavor of crisps is salt and vinegar. Welcome to the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another session of the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. In this session, I want to answer a question that I received in the Trailer Music School community regarding starting out, composing, getting your ideas out. This was in response to something I was saying about sitting down and just writing and not critiquing, just getting the sounds out and letting them fly, seeing what sticks, and not editing. And the question was, how do you do this when you're working on a sound design album? As in, if you're trying to find new and original sounds, how do you then sort of approach the composition stage, the structuring stage with that? Which I think is actually an excellent question, because sometimes we're not all working with preloaded templates and wonderful samples recorded courtesy of Spitfire Audio. Sometimes we're working with sound design and our own sounds. So I want to revisit that with this in mind. What do I do as a composer when I'm approaching sound design cues? And the answer is twofold. The first one is I approach it firstly with a sense of play. If I've got a brief to do some tracks for a sound design album or do an entire sound design album myself, it's usually organic sound design, because that's the way I work. I don't always start by just writing a cue in the manner that I've taught when I say about just sitting down, write, don't edit, boom, track, write, don't edit, boom, track. I sometimes sit down with this in mind. Today's session is going to be finding cool sounds or creating cool sound. So I'll have a session. It's kind of like my template building session, where I sit down and I go through either the sample libraries I have or the synths I have, and I find sounds that are appropriate for what I want to achieve. So, if as soon as I find a sound, again, I don't think about it beyond like, that's cool, I load up a new channel. That's cool, load up a new channel. Again, not critiquing too much. And I don't really want to spend too much time fiddling with the synths, because that's not the way I roll. You might, however, go into a synth, open it, create a sound. That's cool. Load up a new synth, create a new sound. And it's the same with me when it comes to recording my own samples. I will record a bunch of sounds with the intention of then loading them into my DAW and into Logic, and then creating either just literally a channel with that sound, that audio file on, or then creating an instrument, a very quick instrument in Contact that I can then use for that project and further projects in the future. But the key there is, again, not to edit what you're doing, just to keep loading new sounds and finding new sounds, and just have fun with it. Because it's like when you're a kid and you go to a toy shop, you're just like, oh my gosh, there's so many cool things here that I could play with. And that's what you want. You want your template for a sound design cue, and obviously for any other cue you do as a training musician, to excite you, so that when you load up one of those sounds that you found, the moment you play a single note, you go, yes, I've got an idea, and you roll. And you want those sounds that you find to fire you into excitement, to get the flow of inspiration going. So it's really, really important that you have this fun session of finding sounds. Now, again, I don't tend to mix that in my cues. I don't tend to have little sessions of that at the start. I usually do that at the start, at the start of an album or a project, where I create a template, or at least create a starting Logic file that has all the cool sounds I like. Now, it might be a little bit different. So, for instance, the throat albums I do for Elephant Music, I obviously have my template which has the percussion sounds I like and the risers that I've created for myself. But obviously I'm going to be recording my cello and my violin myself. So I will be either playing the cello into that fun session, where I just have a session where I sit down with the cello and just record a load of riffs, or I would take those cool sounds that I've started to build in my template and just bring my cello to the table when I start to write. As because obviously it's an instrument and an exciting sound in and of itself. A good example of this is the way we wrote Throat 3. So we obviously wrote Throat 2, that was a solo cello most of the time, and that was very successful, so we went, let's do Throat 3, let's do more cellos. We did 3 cellos and a double bass. So rather than going into the recording session with these guys with a ton of tracks that they then just play through start to finish, I went in there with ideas, and I just got them to play a ton of sounds that I thought would sound exciting. And in the session, we did obviously a ton of risers that were filthy and amazing, and we did loads of crazy things like playing the cello with bags of sugar, or playing the cello with little bits of wood, just to get that exploration, that fun going. And it's that same thing, we're going in with an open mind and not editing what we're doing. We're going in just to have fun with it, and that's what you must do. You must find a way to write, but when I say write, I mean commit a fun sound that you like to your project without editing it, without getting to that sounds a bit too raspy. Don't do that now. Just get the cool sounds going. Just load them up. Load up tons of sounds. Basically, it's kind of like smash and grab. You've got a 2-hour session to go into your computer and find as many cool sounds as you possibly can, and then run and go. Done. Because actually I find that when I do that, I've limited myself to the sounds I have, so that when it does come to editing those sounds, I'm then more creative because of the limitation. Because remember guys, limitation on your project is a spark for your imagination, for your creativity. Whether you agree with me or not, that is what I have found to be true, and I have found that to be true in all of my teaching as well. When there has been a limitation imposed, the results have often been much more interesting. Like for instance, when I give my trailer composer students a brief that's like, give me an epic music track, and I give them a load of references in that, the problems then start to arise. I've got so many brass libraries to choose from, so many articulations, so many string libraries, and then everyone just panics that they haven't got the best library and they haven't got the best sound, and they don't focus on the writing. Whereas when you go, okay guys, you can't use any other libraries except this, right, all of a sudden you get all these wonderful creative responses, and you really see the creativity of the composers coming out. So yeah, it's a really long-winded way to say I start by having a fun playing session. And that's the way I like to keep it, because I want to keep my job fun, because first of all, it is blooming fun. It's so much fun to make sounds and make music for a living. But then when you can have sessions where you just sit down and play, what? Just press record with a microphone and a little toy glockenspiel and have a go. It's awesome. I mean, isn't that so cool that you can sit down and do that? Well, I'm very blessed to be able to say that I can do that. Some of you might be doing the old side hustle, which is obviously what that I have done for many years too, and hats off to you chaps. It's not an easy one, but remember, keep the fun alive with your tracks, keep the fun alive within these sessions. Don't get bogged down and scared of writing. If you can just have a session in sound design work where you find sounds and create sounds in the most open-minded way. Again, remember what I said. Oh, that's cool, save it, start a new one. Oh, that's cool, save it, start a new one. And by the time you finish that session, you will have countless instruments that are sounding awesome. And then obviously you can go back with your nerdy critical eye, put the glasses on, and I can say that because I do actually have the glasses on. I put the glasses on and then sit there and go, well, how can I improve these sounds? And that's a different mindset altogether. You've done the smash and grab, and now you're choosing the best sounds and what sounds would be best for what. How can I make this sound like this? How can I make this sound like that? So that's basically it. The answer is template creation, but make it fun. And because then what you can do is each time you create a template, you've got a weapon in your arsenal, and that's amazing. It's a huge huge bonus to have that. And remember, guys, keep it fun, keep enjoying what you're doing. It was a bit of a short one today, but I think it's a real necessary one, especially for those of you who work in sound design. Don't forget to explore and have fun with it. And also try a couple of wildcards. Try some instruments you've never tried before, or try a recording way that you've never tried before. The way you do as a kid, you'd be like, what happens when I do this? Obviously, I don't know why I was a really deep voice as a kid. That wasn't true. What happens when I do this? That type of thing. I've turned into Stewie, haven't I? What happens when I do this, Mr. Man? Think about how you can bring that fun into those sessions. It's really important, because then that fun will put wonderful energy into your session, and that energy will then feed through all your tracks and feed through to the listener. Energy is huge, and it will travel across space and time. Okay, anyway, enough of that. Thank you so much for taking your time to listen to me jibber jabber, and I really do hope you got something out of it. It's, again, I like to think they're small tidbits. I'm not supplying you a massive 3-course meal here. I'm giving you a little snack. Here's a little pot of raisins in musical terms, for you to snack on and mull over, and take to your trailer music practice. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen, guys. You are totally awesome, and I so very, very much appreciate it. See ya!